It's spooky season. You know what that means?
Pumpkin spice lattes?
No. Well, yes, but more importantly, it's time to talk about one of my all-time favorite horror games. One that deeply embedded in me my love for survival horror and psychological horror overall. That's right, let's talk about Silent Hill. Now, I know that in the last year or so, there has been a lot of talk about new Silent Hill properties coming to life, with Konami announcing not only a gaggle of new Silent Hill games, but also a remake of arguably the most critically acclaimed Silent Hill game, Silent Hill 2, by a relatively decent developer known as Bloober Team. But that isn't where my story with this amazing series starts. The backlog is real. Whether you're playing on Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, or Steam. And mine has gotten out of hand. I have no self-control, and when I see a deal, I have to grab it. Come with me as I finally tackle my backlog, gaining control one game at a time. I don't think there's any other game franchise that fully encompasses my love for survival horror, sound design, and deep storytelling more than the Silent Hill franchise. Well, at least the first 4 games. Silent Hill is one of the games I saw growing up that left the biggest impact on me. It was terrifying. I distinctly remember the intro to the game, when you first start to control Harry and wander down an alleyway covered in blood. The fog was so thick you could hardly see anything as you walked around the corner, and then suddenly you were attacked with no way to fight back. You die, wake up in a diner with a cop looking after you, thinking it was all just a fever dream. It's a great intro, and it sets the stakes early on that everything is not what it seems, and this world has a lot waiting for you. One of the distinct things that left its impact on me was the way the camera moved, especially the way it whipped around while you turned the corner down at the alleyway. That was mind-blowing to me. Suddenly, this game not only showed me how effective a subtle horror setting could be on a player, but also how you can use the game's camera to guide the player's eye and attention, just like a movie might. You play Harry Mason, who is heading on vacation with his daughter Cheryl to the quiet lake town of Silent Hill. While driving along the interstate at night, he sees a little girl standing in the middle of the road. Swerving to avoid her, he crashes and loses consciousness. When he comes to inside of the diner, being pulled to safety by the cop Sybil, he realizes Cheryl is missing. Now, hell-bent on finding his daughter, he braves the fog and the uncertainty of what lies ahead. The cast of characters that are met are quite eclectic in this small town. You meet a doctor named Michael Kaufman and a nurse named Lisa Garland, who Kaufman totally wasn't keeping hooked on drugs. Dahlia Gillespie, who is freaking nuts, and the apparition that made Harry crash his car, we learn is Dahlia's daughter, Alyssa. The story of this game heavily revolves around religion and cultism, and how this entire town not only went along with it, but played an active role in it. Silent Hill, I think, is pretty iconic at this point, as the small town with monsters covered in fog. But the world goes deeper than that. On the surface, it seems like a regular place. You have the main town roads you wander through, an elementary school, some houses, and a hospital. But the more time you spend here, the more you realize everything is far from normal. The town is empty. There are massive roadblocks and blood strewn all over the pavement, and a bunch of really eerie monsters. And on the flip side of things, there are times where the world will darken, and everything becomes red and rusty. This is the other world, the dark side of Silent Hill, where you will be transported fairly often. The sound design in this series is some of the best I've heard in a horror game. Series composer and sound designer Akira Yamaoka got really creative with the instruments he used when crafting the sounds of this world, and even used a dentist drill on one of the tracks. One of the main reasons I love this series is because of the atmosphere it creates, not only with its art direction and enemy and character design, but also because of all the weird sounds the world has to offer. Tense music tracks and disturbing ambient sounds create a thick and unique atmosphere that I think needs to be experienced firsthand. This game controls with tank controls. And if you're a fan of 90s survival horror games, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, the up button on your D-pad will move the character forward regardless of its screen orientation. Wherever the character is pointing on the screen, if you hit up, he will move in that direction, and the arrow keys will rotate his body. This definitely takes some time to get used to if you're unfamiliar, but it's necessary due to the constantly shifting camera angles. Without this control scheme, playing the game would be very disorienting and next to impossible. The combat is a mix of melee and shooting, but for the most part, you're going to want to preserve your ammo for the more difficult enemies or bosses. Sound design also plays a huge role in the combat. In the diner, you notice that when a monster is near, you hear it before you see it. That's because the radio starts to blur static. Overall, the sound design in this series is some of the best I've heard in a horror game. The music in Silent Hill is something special to me. I mean, just listen to that opening song. Man, it's so good. And this game is just scratching the surface of how great the music in this series gets. Once you get to 2, 3, and 4, it just keeps getting better and better. Especially the 3rd and 4th games, when they added Mary Elizabeth McGlynn on vocals.
Your gentle voice I hear, your words echo inside me. You say you long for me, and you love me, and I want to see you too. Feels just like I'm falling. Is there nothing I can do? Wonder if you hear my calling. I'm here, I'm waiting for you. Where are you? I can't find you. I'm here, I'm waiting for you. I'll wait forever for you.
Akira Yamaoka is probably one of the best composers in video games next to Koji Kondo and Nobuo Uematsu, in my opinion. He's pretty much the sole reason I wanted to play The Medium, which actually was a pretty good game with an interesting story. Do I think it shows how much Bloober Team understands Silent Hill and will kill the Silent Hill 2 remake? No, but that's a conversation for another time. But the music in The Medium that Akira Yamaoka composed and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn and Troy Baker sang on have become some of my favorites of his and are a staple on my Akira Yamaoka playlist.
Your light, it shines so strong, so bright. It shines no more. Why can't I just let go?
I think a lot of the success of the soundtrack in the first Silent Hill can be attributed to the fact that Akira Yamaoka was intensely involved in the development of the game and really understood the story and the world and had a clear vision on how to bring it all to life. I love this game. And the series, honestly. I even enjoy some of the aspects of the Western developed games, even though they aren't very good for the most part. The fact that the original Team Silent was just a ragtag team of misfit developers at Konami who were either reassigned from a project or the projects they were working on fell through is the reason I think this game was so much more than the Resident Evil game that Konami wanted. They were a group of young and hungry developers that wanted to create something special, and they did it. While I know the golden age of this franchise is long behind us and the future seems optimistic for the first time in almost 10 years, there's still more to look forward to with Keiichiro Toyama, the creator and original director of Silent Hill's new studio, Bokeh Studio, announcing its first game, Slitterhead, which is currently in active development. This news sees not only a new horror game from Toyama since 2008's Siren Blood Curse, but also a Team Silent reunion with Akira Yamaoka composing for the new game. So, as you can tell, I'm very excited for what the future holds for survival horror and the members of the original Team Silent. I can only hope that Bokeh Studio swoops up more original Team Silent members like art director Masahiro Ito, who has been mesmerizing Twitter with his toast recipes and getting triggered by annoying Silent Hill 2 fans. And I hope they get to work on a new Silent Hill IP as an independent studio. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give me a like, subscribe, and a comment, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. I am the walrus. Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo.